Good morning again, everyone. Merry stupid o'clock. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I am your host, Tiffany Daniels, and folks, we're going back to that horror show, also known as the JRC. But before we get started, just a few disclaimers. First of all, the link to the article we are about to read is going to be found in the link in the description box, as well as other pertinent links to the Stop the Shock campaign. Notably, I've added a new link to Autistica Hoya's massive archive of documents on this particular case. Please take a look at it. It is a treasure trove. Share them, get them out wherever you can. All right. Secondly, these templates that I keep mentioning in these videos are extremely important. You literally just put your name in there, take 2 seconds to click on your senator, and it automatically gets sent to their office. This is hugely important. We are getting close to where the Senate is going to decide on the bill that would remove public funding from the JRC. So please get it done, guys. Share these templates. Get them out everywhere. We need your help. Also, we have the Change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition, as always. Because let's face it, folks. As I always say, these folks are slippery bastards who seem to somehow get out of every mess that their psychotic way of treating people with disabilities seems to get them into, and have ever since 1986, in spite of the fact that because of them, 6 students are dead. So, please fill out that petition, share it. Also, when we're talking about the JRC, folks, trigger warning. You will hear vivid descriptions of, as well as sometimes see video clips of video surveillance of, people with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you have young children present, please use your headphones. Also, as earlier stated, this is stupid o'clock. I am barely coherent. So, please, folks, if I stumble over any words or sentences, or I have my long, typical autistic pauses, please, my apologies in advance. So, this article was done on MassLive.com, done back in 2019. Updated back in 2019, originally posted on July the 22nd, 2016. The reason why I pulled it up is because we've been going over victim testimonies and statements. And during this article, Terry Du Bois, another survivor of the JRC, is commenting throughout and telling her story. So, that's why this particular article got pulled up. It is in one of the many links included in the Autistica Hoya archive on the Judge Rotenberg Center. So, it's just one of the many treasure trove items we have that we need to start getting out. The media is not doing its job, folks. It is literally up to us to get these articles, statements, and testimonies out there. I'm a one woman. Autistica Hoya, also known as Linda Brown, is one woman, folks. We need your help, all right? Okay, here we go. The controversial Massachusetts facility is the last in the country to use electric shock on students. By Heather Morrison. With TVs in housing areas, full kitchens, dining room areas, beautiful sculptures, swing sets, and basketball courts, the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center A special needs day in the residential school in Canton looks like a dream home. Not to me, that looks like sensory hell. All the pastels, the childish freaking colors, the childish Wizard of Oz. Like, what the hell? Sorry, but the graphic designer in me literally cringes every time I look into one of those hallways through one of these pictures. Moving on, sorry. But many people have spoken out for years about the treatment it gives its students. The biggest complaint against the facility is its use of aversive therapies, or therapies that use painful or unpleasant stimulus to change unwanted behavior. By the way, we are against aversive therapies across the board, in case anyone is wondering. Whether we are talking what they call positive punishments, an oxymoron if I ever fucking heard one. What the hell is a positive punishment? Or bad punishments? Either or. We are against any and all therapies that use this freaking antiquated idea of using punishment in order to, I don't know, punish the disability out of someone. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Not only is it stupid, but it's cruel. That's why we in the autistic community stand against any person or facility or treatment center that in any way uses any kind of aversive therapies or ABA who use this concept of positive punishment or other illogical nonsense to treat something that A is a neurological disorder, not a behavioral disorder, and two, haven't we already proved that punishments really only teach us to do what we have to not get punished, and as soon as we're no longer under any threat, we go back to the behaviors we were doing before? They don't work. Okay? But moving on. JRC is specifically targeted for its use of electric shock devices. The FDA confirmed JRC is the only institution in the U.S. that still uses aversive electric therapy. The organization proposed a ban on these devices in April, and the comment period for that proposal ends Monday, July the 25th, 2016, which we've went over all of that. That was some years ago. Many disability advocates, former students, parents, and former staff have worked to stop the use of electric shock devices for years, in some cases, even decades. Remember, that first case was all the way back in 1986. We have literally been trying to close this place down since I was like literally 2 years old. Just saying. JRC and its supports, meanwhile, say these devices are saving lives, and special needs students wouldn't have anywhere to turn if the devices are prohibited. Which, by all the testimony we have heard so far, is absolute complete garbage. It's garbage, folks. And saying that they have nowhere to turn, it's a scare tactic. It's a scare tactic. It's a scare tactic to use on parents to make sure parents are complacent, keeping their kids in that school instead of doing their goddamn due diligence. Okay? The fact of the matter is, obviously, with the Andre McCollins and Jennifer Masumba, that has been proven to be completely untrue. Both of them are in new programs that they didn't have any trouble at all getting into. So, don't buy that crap that they give you. Arriving at JRC Terry Du Bois was 17 when she tried to commit suicide. This is a survivor of the JRC. Her grandmother had recently passed away, and she wanted to be with her. She was the only one that understood me, that stuck up for me, and so I tried to take my life, Du Bois said. And here's Terry here. The hospital spoke to her parents and recommended that she move from upstate New York to Massachusetts to attend the JRC. What hospital? I want to know what hospital told her parents this. I want names. Because those sons of bitches have a lot to answer for. Makes me wonder how bad this system is in Massachusetts and in the New York area. Who's getting kickbacks to send these kids to this place? That's what I would like to know. It's always the money, folks. You can always draw it back to the money. They can sit there and try to tell you that they're doing it for the kids' good and that they really believe in this option, but I call bullshit. Look at the money. Just saying. Families from New York were commonly given this option. Nearly 90% of the school students were from New York City in 2014, according to ProPublica, and New York tax dollars are sending them there. I want you to think about that. Who in New York is being targeted? Do you think it's the celebrity kids who run into issues in New York? No. Who are they targeting in New York City for this? People who come from poor families, poor neighborhoods, people from minority neighborhoods. 82% of the people that attend this school are minorities. Not a single one of them is coming out of one of the super rich families. I'm just saying. New York City taxpayers, according to ProPublica, are spending $30 million a year to send students to a controversial facility in another state. Think about that. New York City, as far as I know, and I'll look into this later, has, since this became public, withdrawn that and stopped sending kids there. But I'm going to look into it. We need to know if this is still going on. And if it is anybody getting kickbacks to be sending these kids there? Du Bois said she has always struggled with developmental delays, dyslexia, and anger issues, and she's also blind in her left eye. She sometimes worked one-on-one with a local school staff member growing up, but passed her classes, and instead of staying in school until she was 21, she opted to leave at 18, like her typical developing peers. So did I, dumbasses. What the hell is wrong with that? But you need to stay till 21 to mature. My ass was not going to stay till 21 years old to make you all feel more comfortable. So that I can have 2 more years to learn how to mask to make you fucking people more comfortable. Kiss my ass. That's what I thought then. That's what I think now. And thank God my mother was sitting there agreeing right with me, giving them the special glare that only she can give. So, after Du Bois' hospital stay, her parents told her about JRC, but she said they didn't give her a choice about going. The school, she said, was presented like college, which sounded like a good option anyway. But when I got there, she said, it was like military. Worse than military. My brother's been through military, all right? He's told me what it's like. I would rather go through fucking boot camp than ever go to this place. Boot camp is more merciful than the JRC. Get that through your heads. Using aversive therapies on students is a trade-off. Oh my god. On what fucked up planet do I live on that this is considered a trade-off? JRC prides itself on helping students get off their medications. If it's between that and the drugs, give me the damn drugs. I'm just saying. If it's between getting tortured or being on pills, give me the damn pills every time. Every time. Because guess what, JRC? People like me, people like the Bois, people like Jennifer Masumba and Andre McCollins do not need to be drugged to our gills for medication to work. We're not getting chemical lobotomies like you are trying to show to these parents. Take several seats. For being doctors, you sure as hell don't seem to know anything about pharmacological medicine. Sit the fuck down. Moving on. The shock device known as the Graduated Electronic Decalator, or GED, is the most notorious tool the JRC uses, but aversive therapies covers a wide range of methods, including restraint boards, which we've covered that, food deprivation, sleep deprivation, shit we don't even do anymore to freaking war criminals. In 2005, early in her time at JRC, Du Bois was sitting in class and needed to resituate her pants. Her natural reaction was to stand up and fix them. All I remember is my face hitting the floor, Du Bois said. She got up out of her seat without permission. Staff responded by immediately restraining her, she said. This was before Du Bois was approved and fitted with a GED. The devices are made on-site and were once FDA approved, but the modified versions the JRC uses are no longer within the FDA guidelines. Thank you! Thank you! How many times have I said that GED 3A and the GED 4 are not approved by anyone? Thank you! GEDs must also be court approved before attaching them on a student. The GEDs are small gray square boxes made of hard plastic that are attached to students' arms, legs, or stomach by Velcro. Hanging from boxes are wires that elicit electrodes at 60 volts and 15 milliamps of electricity in 2-second bursts. Du Bois remembers the day she was fitted for a GED like it was yesterday. It felt like a vibration was going through my body, she said. My legs would stiffen. They would just go out straight. I was terrified. Du Bois said punishments depended on what rule she broke. She said she was shocked for yelling, swearing, getting out of her seat without permission, and grabbing others. The devices have also been reported to malfunction. She recalls one day after she got out of the shower when she said the device shocked her 10 times. I just kept screaming, "Get it off of me! Get it off of me!" she said. Du Bois isn't the only former student speaking out about her experience. In 2012, a video was released during a court case against JRC. A student, Andre McCollins, was tied by the arms and legs to a restraint board and shocked multiple times. CBS News confirmed he was shocked more than 30 times over a 7-hour period. Remember, face down with a white noise helmet attached to his head. His mother, Cheryl McCollins, told CBS News her son was first shocked for not taking off his coat, but was shocked again for his tensing his muscles and screaming. His mother claims he has suffered permanent damage as a result. JRC claims it no longer uses the restraint board and shocks together. Oh, how convenient for you. We don't use them together anymore. I call major bullshit. You all lie about everything. Why should I trust you on this? Number two, you all improperly use that restraint board all the time. You never restrain someone face down that could literally cause death by asphyxiation. Number three, shocks should not be used, period, with a restraint board or without a restraint board. The hell is wrong with you? Another former JRC student, Jennifer Masumba, said she became depressed while attending the school. Instead of correcting the behaviors the GEDs were designed to fix, she said she just found more secretive ways to do them. Crying was also a behavior that I got in trouble for, so I had to cry in secret, Masumba said in video testimony used in an FDA hearing on GEDs. Masumba said she'll never be the same, and she'll never understand why the JRC did those things to her. I would ask God to make my heart stop because I didn't want to live when that was happening to me, she told CBS News. I just wanted to die and make it stop. Teachers, even those who worked at the JRC for years, have questioned the methods used at the JRC. I believed in that place at first because I was told that it was the only place in the world that could really save these kids' lives, and most of them would be dead if they weren't hooked up to the electric shock, said Greg Miller, who taught at the facility from 2003 to 2006. Staff members were not allowed to make judgment calls on when to use GEDs. If a student broke a rule, no matter the reason, the device had to be fired. Miller said he remembers a time when a student tore up a styrofoam cup, which wasn't allowed. Even though the student wasn't being aggressive or hurtful, Miller had to use the GED. He was told that if the JRC staff didn't stop this behavior now, it can turn into more acting out. Which is insane. That's completely insane. Miller also quickly realized a heightened sense of anxiety due to the GEDs. He gave one example when staff members would reach in their apron for a pencil, which was next to the GED control, and a student would yell out in anticipation of the shock. Yelling, he said, was against the rules too, so the staffer would then shock the student. But it didn't have to be this way, he said. I was seeing more and more ways I could do something other than shock the students, Miller said. After noticing the flaws in the JRC system, Miller went 15 months in a row without having to shock a student. One day, though, he had to. He said he felt sick. That was the last day I worked there, he said. Modern research agrees with Miller's thinking. Positive reinforcement works better than negative reinforcement. Freda Brown, special education professor at Queens College City, University of New York, has studied various aspects of the JRC and has looked at the research JRC said backs their use of GEDs. She said it's outdated. So there were a lot of publications in the 70s, Brown said. By the 90s, only bits and pieces were being published. So, right? Remember when I told you? 30s, the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 60s, the 70s. Years and years ago, folks. She questioned why the JRC points to these outdated studies, especially when they use terms as retardates, for example. Hopefully we've accomplished a little bit more in the last 40 years or so, right? Thank you. Brown said when it comes to our understanding of people with disabilities and treatment options. After the 1990s, more research came out in support of positive behavior intervention support, which is used to understand why an individual is acting the way he or she does. I've told you guys about positive behavior interventions before. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I've been talking about. Once the motive for the misbehavior is identified, steps are taken to remove it. Basic common sense. For example, if a child is afraid of the dark, a parent can give him or her a nightlight rather than scold them. Rather than switching to a more widely accepted practice, JRC continues to insist on using aversive therapies. One of the reasons she said people aren't outspokenly against JRC's methods is that people might feel aversive therapy is necessary in some cases. Bullshit. It's never necessary. It is never necessary to dehumanize someone to the point that you literally treat them as less than animals. Bullshit. Just saying. I think there's something in a lot of people that say such intense behavior warrant intense procedures. Bullshit. Bullshit. You think there hasn't been extreme cases out here in Missouri? As I said, I've been around hospitals my entire life. I've seen some situations with my very own eyes. And not one fucking time have they ever had to do what the JRC does to these kids. It is not a last resort. They torture those kids. They are selling you a tall tale. Both parents and staff members put their trust into the JRC's doctors and professionals. For parents who have watched their children for decades end up in the emergency room by harming themselves or run out of ways to help their child get better, the JRC looks like the light at the end of the tunnel. But they haven't! Talk to these parents. Listen to them. Listen to their interviews and their testimonies. Have you ever heard one damn time in any of the videos that I have shown you of these parents that they tried positive behavioral intervention at all? Have they ever mentioned even once trying to figure out the issue that is resulting in behaviors? No, not one fucking time. They mention drugging their fucking kids, and when that doesn't work, they throw them in the school. Bullshit. This is why multiple kids with the children at JRC have spoken out saying they disagree with previous reports urging people to stop JRC's methods. No, I'm not going to read that. Life after JRC. Almost 10 years after leaving JRC, Du Bois has lived in multiple states, had 2 dogs, gotten married, been divorced, and now has a new boyfriend. She writes poems and enjoys listening to music. A lot has changed since then, but she still thinks of her time there. She still gets nightmares and suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder. She still wonders if anything has changed at the school. Depending on the FDA's final decision, which they made their final decision, and it was overturned. It will follow this. Du Bois, for her heart, is still haunted. She's too afraid to return to Massachusetts. I'm kind of afraid too, to be honest. And I have family that live in Massachusetts. I have a lot of roots in Massachusetts. But how far this state has been backwards to accommodate this school, with what they are doing to the students, with everything you have heard, I don't think that state is safe for any autistic or anyone with a disability of any kind. I'm just saying. And with those thoughts, folks, we're going to go ahead and close out. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So, folks, please don't forget to hit that like button. Hit subscribe. Don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time this morning. As always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. Bye-bye.